Change has not gone away. Indeed, the last few months alone, we have seen the climate crisis reach unsettling levels. You will no doubt have heard of Hurricane Ida, the fifth largest hurricane in US history, sweeping across America. We've also seen mass floods across Europe, extremely near home. Over the summer, London has suffered from frequent flash floods, including the famous Tower Bridge. This is the climate crisis we have already inflicted upon us. If we don't act now, it is only going to get worse. 2 months ago, the Metro released a map of areas in London that will be regularly underwater by 2030, including Hammersmith, Battersea, Vauxhall, Poplar, East Ham and Stratford. That is the world we are going to create. That is the world my generation is going to inherit. Well, quite frankly, we stand here to say, no thanks.
Hey.
This November, the 26th UN Climate Change Conference will be assembling in Glasgow, UK. Hundreds of politicians, delegates and individuals will be coming from across the world to discuss the climate crisis and how best to avert disaster. This crucial meeting is being held within the UK, despite the fact that our government has done peanuts to lead the fight against the climate and ecological breakdown. When they should have used the 2020 UK-Africa Summit to pave the way to Africa's future of renewable energy, they instead invested 90% of the £2 billion in fossil fuels. When they should electrify and make rail transport cheaper and more accessible, they are instead promoting their Jet Zero policy, which ignores recommendations from the government's own climate advisors and relies on air travel becoming net zero by 2050, a completely unproven notion. And when they should be investing to create millions of green, affluent jobs in our country, they are instead planning to make a coal mine in Cumbria. Now, there are those who are maybe more sympathetic to this coal mine and might point out that it could create 500 jobs, which is a fair point. We need to invest in deprived areas and increase employment. But a Green New Deal could create 9,000 jobs in Cumbria. And that's just one area in the UK. Investing in a Green New Deal could create over 1.2 million jobs across the country. That would not only reverse the loss of jobs to the pandemic, it would create a net increase of over 200,000 jobs. Renewable energy and development is safer for our environment. It is more sustainable. It guarantees a better future for my generation. It produces more affluent jobs, and it is cheaper than fossil fuels. Why then, I ask, would a government that puts the well-being of its population at the utmost importance remain obstinate in its use of fossil fuels rather than invest in renewable energy? It seems to me the answer is this: that our political establishment is utterly corrupted by the fossil fuel industry. Let me be clear. I'm not talking about conspiracy theories. I'm talking about Lord Brown, former chief executive, being invited into the cabinet as a lead non-executive director. In 2010, I'm talking about BP's former head of refining, John Manzoni, becoming chief executive of the civil service. I'm talking about Stephen Fry's chief economist at Shell, working as head of analysis at the Department of Energy, and then returning to work for Shell. Lord Robertson, former Defence Secretary, acts as consultant to BP. Sir John Sayers, ex-head of the MI6, sits on the BP board. Sir Nigel Sheenwald, former Defence Advisor to the Prime Minister, also been on the Shell board for 10 years. Vince Cable MP, former Chief Economist at Shell, also former leader of the Liberal Democrat Party. The list goes on and on. I don't care what side of the political spectrum you're on, what political party you support, or what ideology you subscribe to. These links between the fossil fuel industry and our government are a betrayal to the environment we should be protecting, a betrayal to the people of the UK who want climate justice, and a complete ignominious disgrace. What do we want? When do we want it?
Now!
What do we want?
Climate justice!
When do we want it?
Now!
What do we want?
Climate justice!
When do we want it?
Now!
Whose future?
Our future!
Whose future?
Our future!
Whose future?
Our future!
Louder, whose future?
Our future!
Whose future?
Our future!
Thank you.